Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of the North Star podcast. Today, we have my good friend Jove. I'm super excited to be here with him today and just have a conversation. Obviously, as you can see, we're in a beautiful restaurant here. So I just want Jove just to explain how this started first. We'll just get you introduced, get people understanding who you are and go from there, man.
Wow. I think first things first, Jer, thank you for having me on.
I'm pumped. This will be sick.
Yeah, man, I don't know. So, yes, so clearly sitting in a decent space. I love it. And this really was just the product of something that we started, 5-6 years ago, in terms of just the desire to want to bring something to Abbotsford that we thought was going to be unique. Mm-hmm. And I grew up in Abbotsford most of my life, so I thought we could deliver a product that people love while also working with young men and women who are talented in Abbotsford. So, that's kind of the crux of it, and was able to get a great opportunity a couple years ago to make it happen. I don't know how far you want me to go into that, but... Yeah,
no, I would love, we're sitting here at the Table Bistro. I want to kind of understand too, how did the name come about? What's your background in restaurants and things if nobody's ever heard, I know the backgrounds and things like that you've done, but why the restaurant industry?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. So growing up, should I say this? I think you kind of try to spend a bit of your life trying to find out what are some things that you're good at.
Yeah.
Right? The world is a big place. There's a million things that a person can do nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Economy, different types of jobs, different types of industry starting up. And so as a young person, I was just a guy who really struggled to find, what I was good at. Grew up in this interesting way. One of my brothers here, John, he was always so much better than me at everything that I did growing up. He's absolutely incredible. It doesn't matter if it was ping pong, to cars, to sports, to whatever. I swear he's a little taller, darker, you know what I mean? So, I think, at a young age, I learned to be okay, let me try and do things that maybe not everyone is going to try and do. Mm-hmm. Let me just kind of find my
something
own lane.
Unique, right?
Yeah, let me just find my own lane. So, by high school, you kind of just learn to clap for other people and become, I was probably still am, just my brother's biggest fan. Yeah. And so that was one working of it, because you start building the leadership side where you want to see other people do well.
Yes.
Right? Instead of trying to be a leader where you want to be the best at everything. So I think that kind of helped in finding my way into the restaurants, and I'll kind of explain how in a second here. But, post that, actually, I was, if we go a little bit further, I was at a university, just went for a couple years, and I started doing something called student works painting. So I was, 19 or 20 years old, and you become a franchisee essentially.
Cool.
So I was operating, it's going to sound crazy because you're this is not restaurants, right? Residential commercial painting franchise, but you do the hiring, firing, production scheduling, project management. So at the time, as a 19, 20-year-old, I felt there wasn't a lot of kids doing it.
Yeah. And
I was going to be able to learn, how to run a business. There was no, salary for the kids running it. You completely run on margin. Yeah. So you got to be able to go out there, hit some home shows, do some letters, figure out where the demographics, income levels are in whatever city you're from. So I knew the postal codes of where income earners lived in Abbotsford.
Wow.
Setting up home shows, trying to be hey, if you let me give you a free estimate, maybe you could win a paint job for a couple $100. Yeah. And realizing that just getting the estimates was the biggest part of it.
Oh,
right? Because it's okay, if I'm going to close 30% of all the quotes that I do, well, then it just makes sense you do as many quotes as you can.
Yeah. Sure.
So if 100 means 30%, then you're going to get 30 jobs. If you can get 200, you're going to get 60 jobs, right? If the average job is $3,000, you see how that begins to
scale up from there.
Yeah,
for sure.
So even though I wasn't actually doing restaurants, I was just learning a lot about how to run a company.
Learn how to do it, yeah.
So, after that, did some residential commercial painting, who have just been great people in Abbotsford that gave me some opportunities. Shout out Dave from Master Painting. He was the guy who gave me an opportunity as a young guy to work with him and learn a little bit more after my student work stays. And, came into my, at the time now, I'm probably 24-ish. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I could probably just stay in this industry if I want to. I can just do residential commercial painting.
And that's it.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Great margin business. There's lots of work out there, tons of work out there in the trades. And I just said, if I do something new and I fail, well, I can always go back.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
I like that mindset.
So, if you're not going to be heavily financially invested in something, then you got to ask yourself, what is the risk of trying something new? And so, I was 24 years old, and I said, okay, let's hang up the brush, I guess, so to speak. I don't know how, it's not the sexiest term to use.
Let's hang it up, boys.
Yeah, hang up the rags. And so I put the brush down and actually went overseas to Australia, and was like, okay, you know what? I had some family friends out there that were in the restaurant industry. And I was like, oh, maybe I can go out there and do something new. Most of my family members, after they graduated high school, actually went to Australia.
Oh, wow.
To go travel.
Cool.
So here I am. I'm out there kind of traveling, kind of thinking about, working. Started working at a restaurant up north in Queensland called, Rattle and Hum. It was awesome. But went up there and literally just started as what was the right word? They call it almost like a porter or a glassy. Okay. My main job was stock kegs, get the bartender's ice.
So start from the bottom, man.
Dude, run the food.
Yeah, learn it from the bottom. Learn it from the bottom for sure.
That's literally how I was. And I was a backpacker, so it wasn't like I was you think about their culture. As a backpacker, you're not supposed to be super committed to a job. Yeah. So
it's usually a part-time, probably, I'm guessing, or something like that, right?
Yeah. So you're not getting a ton of opportunities as a backpacker. So, anyways, but with that being said, I was like, okay, let me kind of take it seriously. Wasn't allowed to make drinks. Wasn't allowed to cook or do anything. Was only allowed to run the food and get the bartender's ice. So, for anyone who's wondering if you can, I don't know, make it at the bottom, the answer is probably.
Yeah, for sure. You've proved it, man. You're here. This is why I think it was so cool for us to have this conversation and share your stories, because it's you're proof that starting from the bottom and making your way legit, right? You started doing the things that at the time is not what you would be doing at the quote unquote top. Right?
Absolutely.
Right. And you might have to do here and there things like that, but it's you're at that point now. And I think the cool thing is you have a story to, if anybody even just in any sort of business is wanting to get into, you have a story to be able to guide someone. So I think that's really awesome. So,
well, thank you. And I think, I think the leadership, and this is where it was also helping me into the leadership, is you can't teach someone what you can't do yourself.
For sure. 100%.
Right? As a leader, you teach what you know, but you're always going to reproduce who you are.
Yeah.
So I can tell people all I want, but I can say, hey, treat others with kindness and respect. But if I, treat all my staff like crap and I just treat my team like they're just beneath me, the next manager up is going to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Even if I say don't do it, because I think a part of leadership is also visual.
For sure.
So, I'm in Australia. I'm picking up a lot of glasses.
Doing your thing, yeah.
Dude, mopping a lot of floors, moving a lot of kegs. Hey, I was a little bit more fit in those days.
Yeah, you're getting your training in while working. Hey, you can't complain about that, right?
Well, hey, I know you know about that. You know about mind fitness. Anyways, I was a lot slimmer in those days. So I could do the work. But yeah, so here I am, just working and looking around the room and just watching. Mm. And I remember the general manager was working in the restaurant and all these things, and I just thought, I could probably do his job. Not today. You know, I'm
But
not
like,
like,
yeah.
you know, some people are like, I want it all right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, hold on. Like, you got to build into your foundation.
For sure.
So that you get longevity at what you're doing. And it's going to come down to the details. But I thought I could just see myself in another time, another world, another whatever, that I could do that. And anyway, so that kind of just sparked some passion for me. And I think one of the changing moments for me that really solidified me being in the hospitality industry was early on in Australia. I was actually mopping the back of this restaurant. And this place is like massive. Like he's got like, you know, like, yeah, it was.
You do one square and then you look around and you're like, oh man, I got another hour, 2 hours to do this.
Yeah, they're 250, 300 seats. And it's like, you're doing a lot of work, but I was totally happy to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm back there, mopping, cleaning, and all of a sudden this guy walks in, and I met him before. The owners introduced me to him, but I didn't really know much about him and anything like that. Came in, nice suit, super dolled up, whatever, you know, slicked back, gray hair, silver fox, all that. And he was with his partner, and they walked in, and he's a partner in the business, and he goes, hey, such and such, this is Jove. And I'm like, and this is like, you know, his partner, like, and I'm like literally holding the mop. I don't know. I don't even know what a mojito is. Some people would question if I still do. I didn't know anything about anything. And I think for him to, when I saw like, whoa, like here's a guy who is doing something and he remembered my name, I was like,
damn.
It's crazy. But that moment just inspired me.
Interesting.
You know, from that moment on, I would like, it sounds crazy, but I would, you know, go back to my hostel and I would like flip up my laptop and I would go on YouTube and I would look at like, okay, like how do you make different types of liqueurs? Like wow. What is a liquor? Like what is a liqueur? Like what is Prosecco? Like just starting to learn.
Yeah.
And was fortunate enough to get some opportunities.
So cool.
Started junior managing at a couple locations in Queensland. Was able to fly down to Melbourne. You know, was asked to help open an all-German concept, award-winning concept in Melbourne called Hop House. So I helped launch that. And when I went down south, then I also saw a different side of the business because I realized I was working for a company that had 30 different locations. The headquarters was the tallest in the southern hemisphere, called the Sky Deck. Had a restaurant that toured Melbourne. It was a tram car on the outside.
Yeah.
So it was a tram that toured Melbourne, but then on the inside was a fine dining restaurant.
That's so cool.
So it's called the Colonial Tram Car Restaurant.
Wow.
Worked at a bunch of places there, and then after my year, I came home.
Wow.
I came home at 25.
Do you, how many restaurants have you worked in at this point? Like, do you know? Do you have the number? Or can you make like an estimate maybe?
Oh man, it's got to be close to 10, but it's not due to hopping around.
Yeah.
It's due to working with groups that had multiple locations that I was able to, you know, work in those locations. So, you know, junior managed at 3 up north in Australia and Queensland. Supervised an opening in Melbourne, that's 4. Worked at Ludlow and worked at Bear Brass, that's 5. Like, I came back here and I just literally, you know, it was my first weekend. How should I say this? Actually, before I left, I worked up, like I was leaving on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
I worked on Sunday. Like I was loving it.
You were just like, this is my jam.
And I came home, I kind of took a week. And then my brother said, hey, like, place opened up in Abbotsford called Cactus Club. Like, do you want to go there? And I was, at the time, I was pretty much like, I came back like a different version of myself.
Yeah, you were like probably more confident, had more like knowledge behind everything, right?
Yeah, I just knew I'd put in the work. It wasn't like anything other than that. So I knew, okay, if I'm going to walk into a restaurant, as silly as this sounds.
Yeah.
Because normally you walk into a restaurant and you just are like, oh, look how nice it is. And, you know, do they have food I like? And, you know what I mean? And I see some other things. But yeah, he asked me to hey, let's go to this place called Cactus Club. And so I walked in and I was like, wow, like this, looks really nice. But then I also looked at the operation and said, those people over there, they look like they know what they're doing. They look like they know what they're doing. And then somebody came over and said, hey, like, heard what you're doing overseas. They were working there. And
Interesting.
They said, you should work here. And I just kind of looked around for a bit. I thought, oh, this place it's pretty good. And thought, let's see what can happen there. And I just walked over to who I thought was in charge and said, my name's Jove.
I want to work here.
I said, I think I'd like to work
Yeah.
here.
Wow.
And that's how that chapter started, of being at a couple venues with that group.
So did that lead? So how many years? How long was that stint when you were doing like Cactus? I know that you've been to Earl's too.
Yeah.
Like what? How long was that stint that you did for?
I think with Cactus, I'm looking at 2.5, close to 3 years.
Yeah.
The first time around, so we were at Abbotsford, and like I said, disclaimer.
Yeah.
Disclaimer. I've been really fortunate to be a part of a lot of good teams.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think, as an entrepreneur, got to go just strictly self-made and do it on your own. And I'm not a big fan of that, because, every product and service has to be sold to a person.
Yeah.
Every executive's a person. Every employee is a person. And no matter how good you are, without people to build or help you or add value to some bigger vision, and without other people who actually say, hey, I want to be a part of that and pay for that, you don't have a business.
Yeah.
Like, no matter how talented you might be, if you're not working with people, if you're not solving problems for people, which is one way you're going to be adding value to people, then people just aren't going to pay for it. So I have, I don't know much, but I know enough to know that.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been a part of some good teams. So I don't want to sit up here and be like, oh yeah, like I did this and then I made it happen.
Yeah.
It's like, no,
it took a team to be able to get to the point where you are, and it took some time for you to learn from other people, right?
100%.
Like anybody, though, I think that's a big thing, is like, I don't know if you have maybe a quote unquote mentor or anything like that, but you probably had people along the way that you trusted, that you wanted to learn from, and that helped you become a person that you are today, right? In this industry. And I think that's really valuable. I think that's a message, because like you said, I don't think this is always done alone, right?
Yeah.
Like it takes, a lot of different moving pieces to get to where you're at, right?
That's actually probably what I see in Vancouver as being, and I love Abbotsford. I do. This is my home. That's my back, but, objectively, I'd have to say this is actually what I think they do better in Vancouver, in the city, than in the valley. And that's not me throwing shade on the valley.
Yeah.
I love the valley, but that's what makes the valley a ton of opportunities, because we can be better, right? But in the city, they just are better at working together to leverage their resources, put the resources together to create a stronger leverage point, so that they can either get more capital or do bigger projects. Okay. So, if you are, let's say you're doing a project and you're going to get, you can get, let's say, 80% like loan to value, right? Something like that. So if you go ahead and you put in, $1 million into a project, you're going to get 5 million, right? Like, that's just how that's going to work. But if you work with 4 other people and they all bring 1 and you have 5, the numbers, they add up astronomically, right? And so I think it's just, you're going to get close to 50. You're going to get, you can finish the project about 40, 50 mil. So it's just like the leverage of working together gets you a lot further than doing it on your own.
Yeah.
So you can compound a lot quicker. So that's just my take. But anyways, so I think that's what Vancouver does very well, is just working together as a team, realizing that hey, we're going to have to work together, create some partnerships and some alliances to be able to to commit ourselves to highest advantage.
So as someone now, in this field, you've been doing it for many years, and you've seen different restaurants, and you've seen how other places do things, and you've obviously incorporated it here. But like, what does a quote unquote good restaurant look like to you?
I think a good restaurant looks like pretty good culture.
Yeah.
I think a good restaurant looks like is everyone on the same page in terms of just delivering great customer service, right? Like, I think you are literally paying people to care. And I think it's one of those things that a lot of entrepreneurs or managers have a hard time sticking their guns to. You hear things all the time like, I'm not getting paid to care, or I'm just getting paid to like run this food and run that drink and do all these things. And you have a lot of, sometimes in the industry we can become bitter, because, a customer has a bad day, they maybe don't treat you right. And then you take it personally, and you've got a lot of stuff going on in your personal life. It's just valid.
Yeah.
And so when I'm looking at a great restaurant, I'm looking at a restaurant that's taught their team to treat people well anyways. You can see it. When you're in a restaurant, you're going to know about it. But like one of our core values here is choose positivity, okay? And I have to also say what I mean by that, because a lot of people have a notion. And by the way, this is just one of our core values. Doesn't mean that it's the Bible on what everyone has to do, right? It's just a perspective.
Yeah,
okay?
for sure.
It's just just what we think. So choosing positivity, we would say, is not about lying to yourself. Okay, it couldn't be further from that. It's not about creating a false narrative that everything's perfect in your life. It's not what it's about. It's actually just about accepting what you're going through and then making a decision to treat people well anyways.
No matter the circumstance.
So it's like, hey, like I could be tired. I could be stressed. Could have gotten in an argument. Something's like not going right in my life. My health could not be at a fantastic place. And it's like, hey, in spite of all of that, I'm going to choose to be kind to you.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's choosing positivity. Recognizing that there's how you're feeling, and then there's a thin line, and then there's how you're behaving. And a lot of people think that they're the same thing. They think, well, if I'm feeling good, I'm going to treat you well. And if I feel like crap, then
I'm going to treat you. Yeah.
Or we make excuses for why we treat people poorly. And a lot of times it's like, well, hey, I was just stressed out or whatever. And hey, this is real. We're humans, right? We're not the AI robots, right? So there's I think there's empathy and grace and understanding for that on a mature level. But I think it is about us trying to pull back a little bit and say, if I have to, if one of our values is treating people with kindness and respect, and we've got to be able to try to make an effort to choose positivity, well, now I've got to have to learn how to manage myself.
Because there's probably a lot of people looking up to you, right?
Yeah, so now it's like, so every individual person, like myself included, but I'm the first one who's got to, lead in this direction. But how do I manage my own emotions? And I think what it comes down to is just identifying emotions in yourself before they get to like a 10. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And notice, okay, I'm a 5, I'm a 6, I'm a 7 in my...
Like scaling it for yourself.
Some annoyance or whatever.
Yeah.
Now I need to activate the pressure release valve and take 10. And then come back so that I can continue to treat others well. Anyway, so that's what I think a good restaurant looks like. It's like, do they have strong core values? You can see it. You can experience it. And I think that's probably the beginning stages. Yeah. Without that, I don't think anything else works. So you got to be pretty relentless on people. After that, then you look under the hood, right?
Yeah.
But that's a whole different. It takes it to a whole different level of ability and business acumen and experience to look under the hood and then say, what are the nuts and bolts of the operation?
Well, yeah, because I think a lot of people see just this, right? they don't see the behind the scenes. They don't see
bamboozled with the design.
And they don't see the prep that it takes. They don't see, the conversations that were had with a coworker or whoever it would be, right? Like they don't. A lot of people, when you go into a restaurant, you're going there, you sit down, you eat, you experience, but there's no reflection of actually what's behind the scenes a lot of the times, right? We just go and we're just the consumer, right? But there's a lot of work that comes into it, and it's not in my opinion, I don't think it would be an easy job to do.
No, and I think there's really a couple things that make restaurants difficult, and if you're cool with me sharing what I think makes it
100%,
difficult.
let's do it. Let's
I do have a long-term goal to reduce the failure rate.
The challenges and everything, for sure.
The failure rate in the industry. That's a whole nother thing about how Table really came about. But like, number one, like a restaurant, like most people go into it because they're just passionate about it. They're passionate about food and drink, right? They're passionate about hanging out with their friends.
Yeah. So
they want to open a restaurant. And to me, it's like someone who's like, oh, I love cars. I love Porsches. I love, I'm a car guy. So I'm going to open up a car dealership. Those two things are not related.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Maybe just buy another car. Maybe just lease a different car.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's like people are going into it just because they're passionate. And by the way, I'm not here to say you shouldn't go into it without passion. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm suggesting that, the passion and the talent might not be enough. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to scare anybody off. I'm saying that because that's what I went through.
It's realistic.
I'm in the industry, so I don't have to make it up, right? Here we go. Second thing that I think makes it challenging is that the failure to recognize that you're managing a calculus. Okay, so anytime, my wife, she took third-year calc at university, did quite well, very good at math and everything. And calculus is about measuring the change. Calculus is about measuring the change in variables. How does that apply here? Well, if you have a business that has a lot of heavy inventory, my parents, my grandparents, my grandpa really, but it's a family put together. My grandparents started a company called Loewen Welding Manufacturing. This is like 60 years ago. Okay, so let's say you're managing, they manufacture farm equipment. They're making manure tanks, feed mixers, all these different types of things. But inventory management for a company that has a lot of hard assets is different because that nut, that bolt, that piece of steel, it doesn't really go bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting. Yeah.
So, but if you're managing inventory, traditional practices, it's like, okay, let's just measure, first in, first out, or that's FIFO, or last in, first out, that's LIFO, or we're gonna take a weighted average of everything we have, or we're just gonna count up all the inventory, and that's gonna be just considered an asset that you can lease and loan against to get debt against, and it's real value in the company.
Yeah.
Okay, when you're in the restaurant, and it doesn't expire. I know it sounds simple, but
no, I know because you know how I understand supplements. Supplements the same thing.
Okay.
So I relate. I understand what you mean by the restaurant, and supplements is obviously different than food, but it still expires.
Yes.
Like I get it. I understand.
So what ends up happening is the shorter the life expectancy of your inventory.
Yeah.
Like basically the better you need to be at managing the inventory. Right? If I just buy a bunch of stuff and then it all expires next week because I'm not actually managing inventory,
selling it, or I
don't understand the crux of it, and then you just buy a bunch more and you waste half of that, and you buy a bunch of more and you waste half of that, and you're not gonna make anything. You're not gonna have a business.
Yeah, you won't be made. So what is the amount of food that's wasted usually in restaurant industry?
Well, okay, first of all, I can't speak about usualies because
I
don't know. I've also been fortunate. As I said, I've worked with a lot of good teams.
Good teams, yeah.
But I think a lot of things is being able to relegate it down to a number.
Is there a percentage you've heard out there? You've probably heard a lot.
I've heard a lot. I've heard of people having their food cost at 50%. Which is like, I know it sounds crazy because like, what does that mean? But what it means is like, of a $30 dish, $15 of it's going to like what's on the plate.
Yeah.
And, we want to keep that to like, 23%.
Okay.
Okay. And because what you need is on your P&L from revenues down to net, you're going to have a food cost line, but that's only one line. You have maintenance, you have payroll.
You gotta pay people, to make it. You gotta,
you have liquor, wine, beer costs.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of rent. So basically, everything's got to have its own marginal percent for it to shake out at the bottom. So you can't overspend by that much on food costs and then have anything left over to spend and to allocate to other areas on your P&L. So, some inventory practices, some very basic things would be like, hey, like, if you're not measuring every little detail, it's fine. But at minimum, you should know, how much did I spend last month?
On X amount of food.
Yeah. How much did I spend and how much did we sell? And you just, if you spent 10 grand and you sold 20 grand, then that's 50%, right?
Yeah.
Just do the calculation and figure out what the percentage is. And then you got to be like, okay, how can I not skewer and gouge my customers, but reduce that number down? But you've literally got to be able to say, okay, do we need to cross-utilize ingredients more? Do we need to get ingredients that, can we start prepping products in-house? If we prep more products in-house, the shelf life might be longer, or it's going to cost us less to produce the same product. Do we need to outsource certain products? So what am I saying? Usually you start at a restaurant because you're passionate about eating or cooking, but the nuts and bolts of it are a lot more
than what you expected.
So if you're not managing the calculus of the inventory and the change, then it's going to be very difficult.
I think a cool question is, how much food is wasted in a restaurant usually? And I say wasted, I guess, like thrown out or past expiry or like.
So I think here, we're looking at probably 1%.
Oh, that's amazing.
Right, but anywhere else it could be a lot more.
Well, so so like, you've experienced? You don't have to name out the restaurant, but like, what have you seen at restaurants before? Like, what's a percentage usually?
So here's what I would say that restaurants.
I'm curious, man.
Because I know you're looking to see how much they're wasting, but
here's
how they will get around it.
Okay,
because you'd be surprised how they're not wasting as much because of this reason.
Okay.
They're just starting to freeze everything.
Okay, so it's just
quality drops really fast.
But I know you guys here are very like on fresh and like.
So our cooler is half the size of this dining room.
Yeah.
Our freezer for the entire restaurant is a double door freezer.
And what?
For the whole restaurant, that's it.
Yeah, because it's always fresh.
Yeah, so you're gonna have some breads in there. You're gonna have some frozen berries in there. Things are out of season. You can't I can't manufacture berries. We can't flip to blueberries in Abbotsford until they're done. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But a lot of places, it's the opposite.
Like their meats, their whatever. Like, what have you seen? What's the weirdest thing you've seen frozen? Let's go. I want to hear this. This is like gold nuggets right here, man.
Okay.
Again,
craziest thing I've seen.
Yeah, craziest thing. I want to hear this.
I mean, it's gonna be, I'm not gonna say where or what.
Yeah, no.
But I did see, I did see fish and chips frozen that were already battered.
What?
Yes.
And they just reheat it?
Yes.
Oh my god.
So you can just batter your fish and then obviously deep fry it for a couple minutes and it's done. But
yeah,
you don't want to be getting them already deep fried and battered.
Oh my goodness.
And then frozen and then
I can just imagine some the shows like the horror stories of restaurants and stuff.
Seen some stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say you must have legit experience. Damn.
But you know what? Those are all a lot of. You'd be surprised in an organization or a company just how much is just culture based.
Oh really? Eh?
It's culture. It's like, okay, if you have people in your organization or on your team who are committed to doing a great job, they will notice that's not a great job. They actually won't do that job.
Yeah.
Like if I all of a sudden walked in here and said, hey guys, we're gonna stop making all of our doughs here. Yeah. We're gonna stop making all of our sauces. We're gonna start. I'm gonna get 3 more freezers. We're gonna just buy the cheapest stuff. I would probably lose most of the team.
Yeah, they wouldn't be on board anymore.
Because that wasn't the team that I brought on. It's not the team that I've been building into. Same thing. If you brought on and hired a bunch of people that, you know, don't have that, or are used to a culture where you're like,
It's way different.
you know, whatever, fell on the floor, pick it up, 5 second rule. And then
throw back on the plate.
And then all of a sudden you're going to go and say, hey, I think we're going to try to be great. You're going to lose most of your team.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is that when the founder or the owner decides, I want to be great, the amount of change and stress and pressure that puts on their business usually stops them from being able to get there. Like, you got to be willing to say, like, if half my team leaves, then I'm here every day.
Yeah.
And it's not a restaurant thing, it's just a being great thing. And most people, you know, when you've had a level of success, it is going to be, you know, there's an ego complex. I'm not saying for everybody else, myself too, but there's going to be an ego complex about, you know, change.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's some thoughts on the industry. And none of that is bad, because all of it creates opportunity to create a better future. All of it creates opportunity to raise and develop better young leaders who are more in tune, who maybe they're going to open their own restaurant one day. So if you can train them better on these things, they won't fail. You can reduce the failure startup rate if you start building into the future leaders now. Yeah, you got to invest now. And someone said, well, Joe, what if I invest and I build and I teach people all these things and then they leave? Well, what if you don't and they stay?
Yeah, it's a chance. It's just a chance too. That's how businesses are too. You have to take a chance. If you don't take a chance, you're always going to be living in fear, which inherently won't even build you anyways.
Yeah, just accept it. People are going to come. People are going to go. You want to be able to keep as many as you can that are great.
Yes.
But should they step into the next part of their life, it's okay. Yeah. It's okay. Just be committed and become really good at training and developing people, so that should that happen, you can train and develop another person who's got the right soft skills to help them succeed. So you're not like over-indexing and being like, oh, and you're secretly held captive by everything. And that doesn't mean that doesn't mean I don't value the team, but you can't handcuff people.
We can't force them, right?
you just, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know I was kind of ranting and ranting.
No. I think it's cool because it gives you the behind the scenes of things that most people don't think about when they go to a restaurant.
Yes, and there's one other thing. I know we talked about what makes starting restaurants hard, right? Managing the calculus was one of them. And I think the other thing is starting at a certain scale. A lot of people have not considered this, and I'm saying this to help them, right? So I was doing management consulting for a time in my life, and like, this is to help the industry, and we're going to do some things that are going to help the industry, but not recognizing that starting a restaurant as a small business requires a certain scale. Okay, so I'll tell you what that means. So when I was doing residential commercial painting, my experience taught me I can start with just me closing all these sales. Once I figure out how many sales I have, that determines I can hire one person or two people. If I get super busy, I can hire another person. With a restaurant, you can't start with just one person. Yeah, you gotta start with a team. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, you gotta have a chef. You gotta, like, it's hard to probably be the waitress, waiter, the chef, the manager, the like everything. Like, it's, and you see that's what, and it probably keeps the cost down. But it's like, how do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, you don't.
Long term, you can't, right?
Yeah, you don't, and you shouldn't. But this is where, you know, I have a passion to want to see just the failure rate, not just amongst restaurants, but, you know, through entrepreneurs in Abbotsford. I want to see that failure rate decline, because, you know, I've had our struggles before. It's like, man, like, if you can stop people from failing, like, that would keep families together. That would stop stressing, you know, on a sociological level, right? If like business fails in town, like, that's going to affect the whole community of their friends, their family.
Yeah, for sure.
If we don't think about what that means,
well, especially like a business like this, for sure, right? Like, it's people, like, it's community, right?
Yeah, and just, but, you know, it's like, if I fail, how does that affect my friends and family?
For sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
Like
no, I
not,
totally
and
know.
not from a success standpoint, but in the, I'm going to go through a lot of financial distress. I'm going to go through a lot of hardship. We're going to have to probably change lifestyles. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to need a lot more help and support. Like that, there's a trauma
For sure, 100%. Yeah.
to it. And you got to be willing to say, okay, I'm willing to go through it just in case, but let's do the due diligence ahead of time to reduce the rate of failure. And that's what, over the tenure of my career, I'd love to be impacting, you know. And I think, you know, I don't have much time left on the podcast, so I want to get this one piece in before you continue to ask questions. It doesn't get talked about enough in business. It doesn't get talked about enough in the industry. It doesn't get talked about enough within enterprise. And it is the family of the partners, the families of the entrepreneur, the families of the leaders in the company, and yes, of the team, but all that weight goes down on the leadership, right? The person who's 4 days in doesn't have the same stresses to perform work-wise as the person who's like leading the show.
Yeah, you're all in at that point too,
and
right?
there's no disrespect to being new at a job, but the stresses and pressures and how much the team relies on you, fact, is just less than when you're a leader. And I mean a positional leader. Leadership is non-positional, we understand that, but when you have the title too, there's the pressure, right? So here's what doesn't get talked about enough. Keeping your family together outside of work. Like, as entrepreneurs, and this is where you probably noticed this from my life, a lot of people just haven't seen me in a couple of years. Just you won't catch me out at that bar. You won't catch me out at that party. You just, you know.
It's not because you don't want to.
It's not that I don't like people.
Yes.
Before
I get it.
I was married, I was very social.
Yes.
You catch me anywhere.
Yeah.
We
have family, man.
I have family, so a lot
things have shifted. I get it, bro. I get it.
Things have shifted, but what I'm saying is that for a lot of entrepreneurs, because of the stress and the pressures, when they go to relieve that stress and pressure, they're not. It's like, oh, I've got like 3 free hours, and it's like, oh, if I could go home and spend time with my family, and that's more work to invest into. And a lot of times you'll see like this stress and the success rate in the family shifting apart. And I think people grossly underestimate what it means to have a life partner, a life partner who's got your back. Yeah. A life partner who you're like, hey, yes, we are doing life together. You know, I've got a beautiful daughter, Lily. She's 5 years old. Like, I want to spend time with her. Yeah. It's not that I don't want to spend time with my friends. It's just until I have more time, they're gonna get my time and prioritize it. Yeah. But like, I just think that there's, and I can't prove it, but I would suspect that how you're doing at home in your marriage is affecting your work, your relationships, the success of your business. It's almost like flying a jet with 2 engines versus 1. Right? If both are firing, and
it's gonna be smoother.
You're gonna go faster, further. Yeah. You gotta invest more to get that second engine. But if you have 2 and one's not, it's gonna weigh the whole thing out of whack. Like you're not gonna get to where you're going. And I think that's probably one of the biggest stresses and one of the biggest pain points that I have, and where my heart goes for entrepreneurs. Like I said, this isn't a food industry specific thing. That's what I'm talking. Just leaders in general. Like we've got to get to a place where we're like, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I'm there all the time. I'm not saying that's what I'm saying. Yeah. But I'm saying like actually being like, no, like I'm going to be intentional about trying to spend time with my family. And what's hard is that you don't see, you know, when you build into like, let's say a family or something, you don't get the quick hit of dopamine that you would get from achieving a short-term goal. You don't get the same pump you would get at the gym when you can look at it right now. Yeah. So a lot of people's time horizon is so long that they don't see the results, and it just turns into why am I doing this and this and this and that? And I'm not perfect. There's times I go home and I'm checked out. There's times I go home and I'm tired. There's times I go home and I just put my feet up and I'm like, oh my word.
Like, I don't want to talk to anyone. Just like, I just want, yeah.
Which is shocking because you're like, Jove talks a lot.
Yeah, but that's like, you know what, man? I get you, because it's same with me. It's like, you talk to people, if you talk to people all day, when you get home and you just like, you don't want to talk to anyone, right? Because you're just like, I've just talked to people for the last 12 hours, right? So it's just like, it's continuous, and you just want your mind to like give your break. But I think it's cool to hear that you're shifting on, like, you, like, not that I'm not saying you're still grinding, but it's like, you got to a place now where priorities have shifted. And I think that's awesome. I think that's good. I think that's healthy, because if it's like you're always stuck in the same priorities and nothing's going to change for you, right? Like, and I think that is a big thing for entrepreneurs. It's like grind for like 50 years. And then now they lost their family, they lost their friends, they lost everything that, like, quote unquote, truly actually matters
100%.
At the end of the day. Right?
100%. And there is, for me, it comes down to like, how do we get from here to there?
Yeah.
A lot of times it's just in the process. So, I'll give you an example. Like, as a single entrepreneur, you can be like, hey, I'm going to just work 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
Great. And make it happen. Okay. You get married, you start building a family, have, kids or something like that. And you're like, well, I'm working to support them. Okay, that's fine. However, what you might have been doing in your mind as the only way to support them and make it happen, unfortunately, we might. Sometimes we implement a strategy that doesn't get us the end result. So I wanted to support my family. I wanted to be there for them. I wanted to make sure there was food on the table. I wanted to make sure that my kids could, go to that private school. I wanted to make sure that, Lily could afford to go to dance and swimming and this.
Give her experiences. Give her, yeah.
All that stuff's not free.
Yeah. Yeah, no, not at all, man.
Right? Like, let's be honest. I hope we can on this podcast, right? And I'm not saying, well, it was me. It's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying I still have to find ways to be present, because I can do all of that I think which is helping. But in 15 years, she could still say, but you weren't there for me.
Yeah, for sure. You paid for all this, but...
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but like, I think the big thing is like you say, you're there, you're involved, right? Like you just said, you're like, oh, I was at a field trip yesterday with her. Yeah. Like you just said that to me, man. Like you literally just said that. So that's what I'm saying. It's like you put all this money out for all these activities and things like that, but it's like if you never show up or you're never involved, it's not the same effect, right?
And this is where like, my wife puts me in a position to succeed as the father. Okay, so was it last week? Jeez, it was last week already. It was earlier this week. It all blends in. I went to Lily's dance recital.
Yeah.
Right? She had a whole year-end wrap-up thing at Abbey Art Center. So I'm down there for 3 hours watching her do 3 different dances, like, amongst all these different things. And it's like, you know what, though? I rely so much on my wife to be like, hey, Lily has a recital coming up. It's on this date. I already bought tickets. Hey, there's a field trip coming up that really loves the dads to go. Can you go? I can find a ton of reasons why I can't do a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but I wouldn't have even known about that if she doesn't help put me in a position to succeed.
For sure.
As a father.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's a partnership, man. Right? Like it's I think that's too, like, relationship. I guess we can chat a little bit about relationships, but it's never like one person. It's never like the same. It's not like always 50-50. I think that's the misconception.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like it's sometimes we have to be 80 and the other individual, your partner's at 20. Like, how do you guys kind of like support each other when that's happening, right? And I think that's a huge marker, right, to be able to have a successful relationship. And it sounds like, that's something that you take a lot of value in too.
I know, and I think you have to. And I'm not. But disclaimer: I'm not saying we're a perfect couple. So I'm not doing that on on whatever. I'm not doing that. I'm just being honest about, you put your money where your values are.
Yeah.
Okay, between how you spend your time and how you spend your money, you can basically figure out exactly what the person values.
Yeah.
It's very easy. And people believe what they see over what they hear, especially kids, especially spouses. So it is about saying, if I value this, what am I going to do for it? What am I going to sacrifice? What am I going to give up? What am I going to build into? And that's exactly, and people think I'm just talking about family. I am, but that's exactly what it takes to run a successful company too. It is actually, I would say, very easy to have the vision for the great family and the vision for the great business.
But to actually do it,
what are you going to give up?
Yeah.
I want to know how you're going to pay for it.
Yeah. How are you going to, what is your sacrifice?
How you going to, you, but the problem is with, the perceptions on whether it's social media or whatever. It's not social media. It's just our perception of others plays out through this little thing on our phone. It's not bad. It's just how it happens. There's a lack of perspective. And so what ends up happening is we think that the success is made in the ring. We think that the guy holding the Stanley Cup, that's when they became a success.
Yeah, no, it's the grind. I got them. Like that's what I think is so cool, is that you talked about the behind the scenes. Like, that's what I say is, like, I can walk into the restaurant here, right? I sit down, I get seated, we give water, I order my drinks, I order my food, I eat my food, it's delicious, and I walk out, but I never actually understood how it got to that point, right? And I think a lot of us don't. No. Right? If you talk to any consumer, they don't really know what, in all honesty, that goes. I might have a little bit more sense of business and things like that, but like, I don't know the day-to-day of a restaurant.
No, and I think, if we piggyback back on the enterprise side of things, like, you're building a team, you need to be able to put people and leaders in positions to succeed, and if you can do that, you'll give yourself a chance, and you got to be willing to hold people accountable, and that's what makes it hard, because it's so people-oriented, culture-oriented. As leaders, we struggle to hold the team accountable. I don't know if that dichotomy makes sense between love people, and I'm saying this is my own struggles, love people. I just love to be in that room and to chat with people and figure out where we're at and connect and learn, and oh crap, I've got to hold you accountable. That's like, hard.
100%, because it's like, I think sometimes keeping someone accountable, and I understand because I'm in a leadership role as well, but sometimes keeping someone accountable can come off as you being mean or you being like, and it's not that, it's just the reason keeping someone accountable is so they can now thrive and succeed even more. It's not because I'm trying to put someone down, or it's not because, and I know that's probably the same thing with you, it's not like we're trying to put people down by doing that. It's more of like, we've learned it, we've gone through it, we don't want to see the same thing for you. And that's how I at least see it for myself.
I think you're absolutely correct, and I think that's what would make you, like a great leader. It just is about where your mind is at.
Yes.
That allows you to hold people accountable effectively. So first of all, if I hold someone accountable, the first person I'm actually holding accountable is myself.
Yeah, 100%.
If I don't make this decision, or if I don't say anything about it, if somebody is wronging somebody else, if somebody is being rude to one of our staff members, if our staff member is treating another team member inappropriately, which, by the way, not happening, but if that happens,
you have to be the one to...
I don't do anything about it.
Yeah, it's the culture changes. It's like you're allowed. It's like, oh, that's fine if they do that.
Yeah, because even if you don't think it's fine, but that's not what you're saying.
Yeah. Right?
So the whole thing is like, leadership is incredibly not sexy. Probably why I wear a suit. It's probably why I wear a suit, to be honest. As good as I can, because it is a dirty job. Someone's got to do it. Someone has to do it. But absolutely. So holding people accountable is holding yourself accountable. And you talked about culture. I think also understanding, like, culture Okay, it's an agricultural term that just means that which is like conducive to grow, that which is inspired to grow, right?
Yeah.
And so recognizing that whatever you encourage or discourage, whether you say it verbally or not, that is what your culture is made up of.
Well, and that's what you had talked about that more in depth too, which is interesting because it's one of those things that I think it also kind of plays into your, and maybe I'm wrong, but it kind of sounds like it plays kind of into your values and morals as well. And for me, it's like if you as a team have values and morals, then it's the one thing as a leader, I think it's hard to always, it's a challenge to now keep yourself accountable, like you're saying, with those morals and values, but also the people around it, and having them almost believe in that vision as well. And I think that's because when you're at the, let's say, quote unquote top, right? Yeah. You're the leader, you see it from the top, but it's like, and you're invested maybe a little bit more, you maybe have some money in the business, you have, like you've already kind of taken those 2 steps in, where it's like when the other people below, the whoever it may be, trying to get them to that point to also believe in that, it's a challenge. It's really, really hard.
It's a challenge. And sometimes if you have to say, hey, look, it's not working, that's one of the hardest challenges.
That's tough, man.
That's hard as a leader.
Yeah.
Every time I say, hey, it's not working, I always reflect on what I could have done as a leader differently.
Yeah.
What did I miss in the interview, in the hiring?
Yeah.
Where were my blind spots?
How could I have said something maybe differently, or
what did I miss?
Yeah. But I think that's a reflection. I think that's also a misconception too, is reflection doesn't mean you put yourself down because of it. That's a huge thing. Because I think, you know what I mean? Like when you're saying like, oh, I could have maybe done it differently. It doesn't mean like now you put yourself down and you're like, right, I'm the worst. I could have done it way better. But it's like, no, you reflect. You're like, okay, I have a learning opportunity. Let's now next step, take it. When I have that opportunity that comes up again, I know how to manage it differently.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, you're correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I think it's easy for us to sit here and be like, we could reflect on all the things and beat ourselves up for.
Yeah.
I've made mistakes.
Yeah. I guess we all have, yeah.
Right? So it's a tough thing to navigate, man. Like being in that position. But I want to shift here because I want you to plug this place. I want you to just tell me about Table Bistro, man. I want you to like why you guys are different. Like I know you had talked, if somebody didn't catch it, but you guys are like, we make our doughs and in-house, our sauces. Like I know that's very different than most places. Like why did you adapt that? Why have you made it, like what makes you guys just stand out? Like I really just want you to give this place a good like a bang. Yeah. So when people come here to eat, they understand the behind the scenes.
Like what about actually tell a table who's coming for the first time?
Yeah. Or just tell us about maybe things that you might not get the opportunity to tell people because you're busy.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Almost all of our sauces are going to be made right here in-house. Most of our prep is done right here in-house. People starting at 6 o'clock in the morning. We do make our pizza dough and our tomato sauce and all of these things, and maybe on the front of house side of things, like, our if it's a syrup that you're getting, like, we made Calvin a vanilla cappuccino today. Hey, you know what the reality is you're not going to get that at 99.9% of restaurants. That what he's drinking right now doesn't exist.
And I know Calvin's loving it too, so
it doesn't exist. So we're making the vanilla,
shift and
we're making the vanilla syrup here.
Yeah.
We're making, if it's a strawberry Italian soda, we're making that here. So these are so I think fundamentally on a very product side of things, I think we do pretty good. We're not perfect. We're not Michelin. Like we're just doing the best that we can. Mm-hmm. But I got to go back to the very beginning. I truly believe that we do care about the customer experience, and we do care about each other on the team. And it's, so if we have 4.7 stars and 400 plus reviews, that's everybody else's opinion, right? And you have as many brands as you have customers because everyone has a different perspective on your brand.
For sure.
So I think ultimately that is the benchmark. As the restaurant industry goes through a time where people are becoming a little bit more bitter, and people are some restaurants are cutting corners or more corners than what are necessary. Not holding their staff accountable to a high standard because it's hard.
Yeah.
That all impacts the customer. And I think at a time like this, where our community spends their time and their money matters. Like someone coming into the Table Bistro and ordering a burger here is like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like I'm genuinely stoked that you would come here. Like I'm
that
stoked.
You want to eat, you want to get a drink, you want to get dessert. Like,
yeah, and if I've got a staff member that sees customers come in, oh, I was just trying to get out of here, and like, oh, and I gotta like serve more people, and like you don't work here.
Yeah.
You don't.
No.
It doesn't exist.
As someone that's coming in as a consumer, what do you hope that they experience?
You know,
like from a client or consumer perspective, right? What do you want them when they walk through the door? What do you, and then when they walk out the door, what do you hope for them that they experience?
I want them to get a little sense that even if it's 1% more, they're like, wow, these guys, they actually wanted me there.
Yeah.
They actually cared or tried to care, knowing that each and every one of our staff members has their own life, going through their own things and problems and stresses in life. We're just people too. But like here, I want you to leave being like, wow, I couldn't even believe like it seemed like they actually cared about me. And that's what I want people to feel. And if they feel like we cared, job all done. And when things, yes, it's good to have, you know, a lot of the reviews are based on the product and this and that, and it was a really good coffee or really good whatever. That to me is just expected.
Like a byproduct almost.
And that's just the baseline.
Like when you come to a restaurant,
great food.
Yeah. It's not that it's an expectation, but it is an expectation in a way. And you're gonna come to somewhere to eat that's gonna taste good.
Yeah, we're expecting everyone to really like it, and if someone doesn't, then we try to fix it.
Yeah.
And our customer service, when someone has a complaint, we try to say, okay, now we're really gonna turn it around. Like if something wasn't right, it's like, you know what, maybe we'll take care of that. Maybe we're gonna, you know, maybe I'll go over there personally and chat with them. But whatever it is, I want you to know, like, wow, customer service, I'm almost happy that something went wrong because I wouldn't have experienced the full force of like how much they care.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want.
What is like, how would you navigate a situation like that? You know, someone has a complaint on something. You know, it's going to happen. So it's going to happen in any industry. In a restaurant, I feel it's different though.
You know what? I think great customer service, and I know we're kind of getting low on some time here, so I'll try to keep it short, but if you care, you would be surprised how you will find out how to fix it. And I can teach all the nuts and bolts about, you'll just, first of all, if they're not happy with it. Yeah. Like our on a piece of paper, the customer service model is 100% customer satisfaction. Then you're either not paying for it or we're getting you something brand new. Like, we're going to make sure we do everything. Oh, you don't like that second one? Okay, you're not going to pay for that. Like, but money might be third on what the customer actually wants. Maybe they want to be heard. They probably just want to know if we care.
Like if what they have expressed is being reciprocated back in a way that you can actually just have a conversation with them.
Well, think about it. If you go into if you're a customer and let's say you are decently affluent and money's not really an issue, and you don't like a $23 dish. Yeah. And I come along and say, okay, great, whatever, we'll just take it off your bill.
Yeah, without actually knowing why or.
Money might have been like the fourth.
That might not be the issue. Yeah, I see what you mean.
So it's like we are paying, and it sounds crazy. You know, my team, we're motivated by caring, and I'm literally paying the team to care. And someone's like, well, I don't care. Then I'm gonna write you a glowing recommendation. Yeah. To work anywhere you want to. Yeah. And that doesn't mean you're not a great server.
It just doesn't mean it doesn't fit the atmosphere. Yeah.
I will take someone with a little less polish, a little less experience, if they care. If you don't like people, then this isn't for you.
Well, I've been here a few times, and I think you guys are awesome. So, but you know what? I also think the restaurant business is the hardest, and I'm being honest about this, because you guys in a restaurant business have the most clients. Maybe you want to say clients, customers, consumers, however you want to, friends, or
Whatever.
but however you want to word it, but that are, you guys have the most like ever, because somebody might come to a restaurant and you know, they might come once a week, they might come every 2 weeks, but it's always changing. So your first impression on someone is like the biggest thing. Where me, I see someone every week on a weekly basis, but in a restaurant you have hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are in and out on a weekly basis. So I think that's the hardest like retention to keep in any business, is the restaurant business.
So here's the thing: if you care about the customer, now all of a sudden you're doing things that 99 aren't doing.
Aren't doing, exactly.
And you just
I like that.
become the one.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably, and also like a lot of it's perspective. Like you have the perspective. Obviously, you're a very smart guy, but like, how much is a startup entrepreneur focusing on the long-term value of the customer?
Yeah.
Do they actually know what that one visit every 14 days for 25 years, did they actually know how much that adds up to?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not about sitting here and relegating every customer down to a number in terms of like what they're going to spend.
Yeah, how much money or...
But
yeah.
they're either going to spend it here or somewhere else.
Yeah.
So we just think, you know what? We actually just care
enough
and
to...
think it's cool
yeah.
that you're spending it here.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like if I don't care that you're coming here, I just think that you're going to know.
Yeah. Like you're going to feel it. I think we feel things like very... like intuition, right? And like that's my biggest thing is like always when I text him like, hey man, are you gonna be there? Like, because I love to see you. Like that's the thing too, right? You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, I wouldn't have brought my family here. I wouldn't have brought my friends here. I wouldn't have done that over the years.
Amazing.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done those if I didn't see the value though. That's the thing, right?
Thank you.
So, and that's, you know, that's my biggest thing about it is like, I can attest to it where like I've had that experience here, and like I've brought people that are very close to me here because I believe and I see what you're trying to do here, right? And I think that's the one thing that, you know, I hope for anyone that comes here, they can see that and they can understand it. Because, you know, I talk to people all day, man. I talk about the restaurant. I talk about that. I'm like, you gotta go check it out, or like, you know, because it's that's what also builds other communities up, right?
Right.
It supports. Like if somebody can come here and have food that I know, well, now it's supporting you. It's supporting you as the local business owner, right? And that then builds the community. If there's a good restaurant in Abbotsford that people can come to, well, that makes Abbotsford a little bit more higher quality. It has like somewhere they can go, people can go to eat, and like it's a good service, right?
Yeah, and I think probably one of the last thing I'd say is like, you know, as a business owner, you're providing jobs.
100%.
You'd be surprised at how many people come in the restaurant and then want their kids to work here.
Oh, that's cool.
And a lot of times it's like, we can't because they're 15 or 16. Well, we can, but you know, they're not there yet.
Yeah.
Or they just need something for summer.
Yeah.
But you know how many people who are like, no, I want like actually like track me down and like, can my daughter hand in her resume? Can my son work here? And to me, that's the biggest compliment. And like, let's not get it twisted. Like I'm here to be the face and to make sure everything is going in that direction. But honestly, it comes down to the interactions they have with like the staff. It comes down to the interactions they have with, you know, a Claire or who's setting up the bar, or an Ethan or Quan or an Alicia, like, and all my staff. I didn't mention everybody, but I'm talking about everybody. Okay? Those are the real wins, and we try to bring on very interesting and smart young people to work here. Even if they're only going to be here for a year or two, it's okay. I'll take you if you're great for like a year or two. Then if you're like, I will never quit, but I'll be here for like a decade. You know what? No. So the real win is how we were able to find like 20-ish pretty unique, people, hardworking men and women who want to serve the community. I'm not talking about the server position. Restaurant support, people who are line cooking and prepping, like just genuinely want to do a good job for others. I'm telling you, it's the differentiator, and a lot of people probably aren't going to believe me because they'll look at the space, they'll look at the, he's got so much management experience and there's this back-end systems, and yes, we have that stuff too, but it is truly, I believe that we are winning because of the people that we have.
I love that. That's awesome, man. I know we're going to end it here pretty quick, but I just want you to, I always kind of at the end of the podcast, just, ask the individual just to, talk about, where they can find the business, if that's Instagram, their website, the address of the location in this state here, and if there's any kind of final words that you want to add in as well. So
yeah, I mean, anywhere that Jess Delves has put us,
yeah.
She's our marketing and brand manager. She's killing it. So honestly, handles at the Table Bistro. By the way, just a little side note, if you are able to get the handle you want on Instagram, it's unique.
Yeah. You got it, right?
Hey, that name took us, it was 30 hours of digging to get the name The Table.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so you can find us online, thetablebistro.com, at The Table Bistro if it's Instagram, so we're very fortunate.
What's the address of this location?
You know what? It's unit number 101 and then 2180 Gladwin Road. So if you don't know where that is, it's okay, because if you're from Abbotsford or anywhere, just go to Mill Lake.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go to Mill Lake. There's the tallest building in all of Abbotsford. It's like 30 stories.
You'll see it.
Everything else in Abbotsford is 1, 2 to 6 stories. So I just tell people, you know where Mill Lake is? Yeah. Okay, great. You know the really tall tower? Actually, yes. In the lobby.
Yeah.
In the lobby. And I can't say enough about, my business partner and those who are behind the scenes who have really added a lot of value. I know us on the front lines on operations get a lot of the love and the support, but my business partner is tremendous. Friends and family that have helped me out along the way. Just trying to make good and make right and do right by them. It doesn't happen without, it takes a village to raise a business. Mm-hmm. And when we started, we really had a lot of people helping and supporting who aren't here, so don't get the love and attention. But anyone who's supported and been alongside, they don't get their shine, but man, it doesn't happen without that.
I love it, man. Well, I'm just going to end it off here, but thank you so much, Jove. And I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for listening to episode 14 of the North Star podcast with Jove Loewen and the co-founder of the Table Bistro. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Let's go!
Yeah, love it, brother. Thanks, brother.
Big dog.
Thank you.